Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. Thanks so much for joining me. I've got Anthony from Sound Exchange here. We're going to do another discussion topic. We've had so much fun doing these in the past, so thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. What's up, everybody? It's good to be back.
And so for this one here, we're going to talk about why physical format music is necessary, right? Not just something that we want and love, but I actually think it's needed, it's necessary, it's a very important thing. And so I want to touch on a number of things. And I guess the first thing is I just want to start off by asking what format is your favorite and what got you into it?
I'm a vinyl guy. Definitely my favorite format. I don't not like anything. I like CDs. I even like cassettes. Now that, being
I grew
here,
up on cassettes, so I've got no issue with it. I just didn't like that you have to fast forward and rewind to get to stuff. That was the beauty of the CD when it came out. But
maybe when we hold it, it's only it's the nostalgia. You put it in your back pocket. You can fit two in each back pocket.
I've got a tattoo of a cassette on my leg, so it brings back wonderful memories for me. And I mean, right off the bat, we're already starting to talk about what it is about the physical format. It's these memories, right?
Yes.
So you got started with vinyl.
Yes,
and that's
started
still
with
your
vinyl.
love.
Yeah.
And yeah, you branched out into other things and so forth. I started with cassettes, but I'm a CD guy. Once CDs came out, I kind of started in late 87, 89 with cassettes, but in 89 for Christmas, I got a CD player. So I wasn't too far into it. I had about 100 cassettes at that point.
It's a lot for
and
that time.
It was, yeah. My friends all had, 10. Kind of thing. So I was blowing them away, but then now I'm really blowing them away.
Yep.
But so I moved into CDs pretty quickly. And for me, one of the things that drew me into that was at that time, because they were trying to get people into CDs and to buy them. They cost a lot more than cassettes did, and certainly a lot more than vinyl at that time, which was going down. They added bonus tracks.
Yes.
So there was a number of artists that you bought the CD, you got one or two more songs. Mm-hmm. And so that was the thing that really drew me into it, was that extra.
I totally forgot about that being a reason. Yeah. Wow. I'm glad you brought that up.
And at the same time, too, I think that, the cassette is so much smaller. And we didn't bring any cassettes over here, looking for one around us. But we all know the size of the cassette.
But grab one. Yeah.
The CDs themselves are actually bigger. So I think I got drawn into that for that as well. I wasn't, so standard size of a CD, and then we jump up, or cassette, and then we jump up to that in CD, which is a great album, by the way.
I figured I'd grab it to accept cassettes. Great records, very overlooked. Just like this
do
one
your
called.
job, yeah.
So, even though I started as vinyl because my uncle he gave me his old stuff when he upgraded to CD. Yep. So I had stacks of records that he was now, every time he bought it on CD, I got the record.
I think a lot of people get into it that way. That's bringing back memories for me where, I got into cassettes because one of my older brothers gave me a cassette, Def Leppard Pyromania, which is why I became such a big fan and why I'm holding up Hysteria, and we'll have a story about that a little bit. But beyond that, I remember when I was even younger, and I've got two older brothers, my oldest brother, playing vinyl, Journey album, and ABBA and stuff like that. So it's like, I've got connections to that where I want to own those albums on vinyl, because that's how I first experienced them. And then, so, a lot of this stuff I think comes for people through older friends, older family members, passing it down. So that's cool that your uncle helped turn you on to vinyl and stuff like that.
Yeah, but even he's also the same guy that turned me on to CD. Mm-hmm. He had 2 copies of Appetite for Destruction. So the first CD that I ever owned was Appetite for Destruction. Oh, yeah. Because he had a double. And I'm like, wow, man, this is awesome. And, the cover, I remember, this is the record.
Right.
But I remember just flipping through the book, the shininess of the disc, because it was just silver with black lettering, and there was something about the simplicity that punched me in the jaw.
That was so magical. I remember the first time I saw a CD, and I'm like,
what is this?
Right, but the thing was, my friend had won it like at a state fair. He didn't have a CD player, but he had this CD. And the thing is, I think it was like the Oak Ridge Boys or something. At that time, we didn't even know who that was, but I was like, you want a CD? We're like, how do you play this thing?
But it was so cool. It was a little plastic case with a
silver thing,
a book-type lid.
I wanted it, even though I couldn't play it either. I was just like, this is a cool thing.
I had to have this thing.
Yeah. I think that was like 86 too, 86, 87. because we were listening to Poison's Open Up and Say
Oh, nice.
cassette. Yeah, and we were like, well, cassette, CD, how do I do this?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like my first experience with it. Mentioning Guns N' Roses there, that was the first album that I bought with my own money.
Wow.
So
what did you buy it on?
A cassette, yeah. 88.
I did have it on cassette first also.
I mean, I really had to talk my mom into letting me buy it. There was this whole thing going around at the time about if parents let their kids buy Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, it's feeding the band's drug habit. So I had to explain to my mom, no, the band's already been paid for it. I'm just buying it from the label now.
Yes, you're feeding the labels, drug habit.
I'm feeding the labels. I mean, but at the same time, eventually my mom gave in, let me buy it. She saw that it didn't change me into anything that, she didn't like.
You didn't become a drug addict.
I didn't become a drug addict because I was listening to it, and that was cool. It opened me up to a whole bunch of things. But yeah, man, that was the first thing. That was like my album.
Yeah.
I still think it's one of, if not the greatest all-time hard rock album.
Hands down.
Yeah.
There's not a bad song on it.
Nothing. Yeah, unfortunately, they'll never replicate it again, but I still love.
Think of that guitar interplay between Izzy and Slash.
Yeah.
Nothing sounds like that, man. It's so cool. It's so, I don't know, it's good. It invokes
well,
memories and creates new ones constantly, this record.
Right. And, and that thing, it's the art, the packaging. So, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, the second thing to get into here, which is, why is it important? Why is physical media important? And for me, at least, this is art. And it's on multiple levels. So, I mean, there is the art in the album cover.
Somebody spent time on this.
That's right. And I think with having that kind of art and thing and the image that it is on it, how do you transfer that into digital? These little images that are that size.
You can't, because you're missing a giant part of it. Going back to your memory for format, that Journey record, you'd rather have that on LP because it brings back the memory.
Right.
Going through every incarnation of how Appetite was released, I had it on cassette. The folding out of that inlay card for the lyrics was awesome. And then the first time I had it on CD and opening up the book, and then the first time I had it on record, pull out the sleeve and the lyrics are all there. You know, it was just.
And that's a lot
you
of
don't
fun.
have that when you're staring at a thumbnail.
No, I know. And they say, well, it's all online and you can go to Wikipedia and pull this stuff up. But how many people actually do?
And if you do, you're not touching something. You're tapping a keyboard. You're poking something.
Right.
There's something, it's Demolition Man, the VR sex. That's kind of like what that is. You don't get to reach out. You don't get to say, hey, man, like who are you excited with?
And so that kind of leads into the next thing then. We were touching on this briefly earlier, which is, when I was growing up as a kid, I was kind of a shy kid. I didn't, necessarily know how to go up and introduce myself or, make friends, so to speak, kind of thing. Music for me was a twofold thing. You can do it with people. You can listen to music with people and sharing it. You can go to concerts, stuff like that. You can also do it by yourself.
Yeah.
So it was a nice thing that you could do whether you have a lot of friends or not a lot of friends. But what I found with music was it was a great icebreaker. I could, go up to somebody and say, hey man, who's your favorite band? Or hey, I like the shirt you're wearing.
Yeah.
And so there's so much more beyond music than just the sound, the musical aspect of what it is that they're recording. The art, the packaging, the experience, you play music and it takes you right back to a particular time.
Yep. And you can talk to that t-shirt. Oh my God, did you hear their latest record? And then you start naming the songs, talking about what you like about the songs.
Right.
Like that's huge. And that's how, a lot of bonds and friendships are formed.
Absolutely.
Music and music type stuff.
Lasts for a long time. Yeah, so there's a lot of, I think, a bond that can be made. And you not only make it with your friends and the people that you're listening to, and you make it with the time and the memories and that sort of stuff, but you get to know the artist too. I mean, when an artist passes, I remember when Ronnie James Dio passed, that was like a gut punch to me. Wasn't expecting that. I knew he'd been sick, kind of a thing, but reading that, it was like, I know I don't know him,
but
I felt so bad. It was like losing a close friend.
That human, he introduced something, an idea, a feeling into my life that has now left this world.
Right, you can't get any more of that, or any new of of that.
Same thing as hugging your mom. There's
there's a connection there, and it's but that's just an interesting thing, that music goes beyond just hearing things. And
are you going to get that the same with the thumbnail?
Yeah.
Or do you need to have that entire, I don't like using the word package because it seems like it just doesn't seem fair to call this a package.
Right.
But with just a thumbnail, are you going to get that closeness to something or somebody without looking or living through the life that they put in front of you at that point in time?
This is an analogy, and completely separate from music, related with space and going to the moon. And the famous question that was asked, why are we going to the moon? Why do we need to send a person there, kind of a thing? And the answer that came back at that time was, we need someone to go there who can touch it and experience it and come back and tell us about it, right? Sending a robot to the moon wasn't going to give the same experience. Very true. And I feel the same way about music. Just hearing it isn't the same as tactilely touching and experiencing it and sharing in it and all of that sort of stuff. So, I mean, I've worked with various age people, and I've got people that are just graduating from college, coming into work. I've got some friends that are in their early 20s, kind of a thing. Never bought a CD, never bought physical format of any kind. They've only ever streamed. And I get stuff in. Sometimes I order, it arrives at work, and they see it and they're like, man, I wish my favorite bands did that, because their artists, most of them stream only, or don't release it, or they only release it in one format. There's no box set editions. I mean, we were just talking about some of the cool things in box sets and stuff, and it's like, the die cut with this, and you slide this out, and so you're seeing the individual 4 pictures here, but then when you pull this out, it's another thing, and
lenticular cover.
I love this one with the Rolling Stones, building on the original album, so that as we do, change it like that, you get the 2 different images. I can sit there all day and just spin that thing back and forth.
Flip top box on Temple the Dog, instead of it coming out from the side.
Right.
You flip the top up, and it's actually magnetic, and as small of a detail as that is, when that magnet clicks, it just sets something off my brain.
It does.
That's awesome.
I know, right? It's like
why?
Having that click,
magnet.
Right, that snap.
Yes.
I know.
It's like when you open up a gatefold that's the Stout and Tip-On jackets, and you hear that.
You're right. For the very first time, when you're
goodness,
when you're separating pages in a booklet or something, and
sometimes they stick together, and you have to. Oh man,
right?
Is that compulsive?
I don't know, but it's also that idea that this is the very first time that this thing has been opened.
Yes, it's awesome.
Yeah, there may be millions of them in the world, but you are opening this thing for the first time. You're experiencing it for the first time. There is no clicks or, I don't know, peeling apart or anything.
It becomes
like that.
Ritualistic.
Yeah.
To where you want it again and again and again.
Well, that's true. I mean, physical format definitely forms some sort of addiction, I will say. But it's what you get out of it, I think. And so to me, those things that we get out of it are what make it necessary. As an art form in and of itself, I think that we need it as a storytelling device.
I like that storytelling device.
Yeah.
I love that.
Beyond the song, which will tell its stories or do its thing, these albums, I mean, what does this album cover mean in terms of Temple of the Dog? I don't know. But I will stare at this thing and wonder what this material is that they wrote the name in, and what is behind it, and really kind of break it down in my mind. Why did they choose to go that route, or, tattoo you, or any of these other things? I mean,
you get lost in it.
10, that classic idea of them, 5 guys holding up their hands, 10 hands.
I stared at that album cover wondering what was happening, what was going on.
To me, it was
the background. Why is,
coming together,
so big,
a bond. I mean, it was like, I stared at this thing and I was just like, yeah, that's how I feel. I want that.
Yeah. None of it, they're all looking down. There was something to be said about it. And it was probably just a picture that, I mean, whether it was planned or not, I don't care.
Right.
That cover I stared at.
It's iconic now.
Forever.
Yeah. But I think, in this case, an album cover, and I know that the original one is
just the hands.
It's just the hands, just this much up there, which again.
But when you open up a CD booklet, it flipped down and you had
the CDs.
You had that.
That's right, the CD size of it, but they put that into it. And I think album art like this assists in the selling and the popularity and the rise of music itself. And I think, when you have albums that come out today and they don't do as well, or they don't do something, it's like, you don't have that. The album cover is just not important anymore. Half the time,
No, it's not.
artists don't even put their names on them.
Nope.
It's just a picture of something. And I'm like, where's the logo?
Like the name has to be on there.
Yeah, name has to
I
be
like
on
simplicity, or I like it all.
Right.
But I'm attracted to simplicity.
Right.
But if there's no name on it, that's kind of a
Yeah, and
ruiner.
I just feel like today it seems like a lot of the newer artists don't give a lot of time and thought to the album cover.
Yeah.
It's coming back a bit because vinyl has risen in its popularity, and so a lot of artists are releasing even just on vinyl and not even on CD. But they're realizing that if I'm going to have art that is the size that it is, yeah.
I mean, you have...
Right. So...
Not saying that either is better, because your preference is what matters, but, there's...
Yeah.
You want to put that time into your artwork, because if you are going to primarily be selling vinyl, I mean, look at that. You want that to hit you. You want that to jump out of your face.
Well, and then there's even artists that are doing like revised album covers.
Yes.
Rush keeps remastering their albums and updating the art.
How do you feel about that?
I like it. I mean, again, the original is still there, but it's like if you're going to put this thing out and then they reinterpret that album cover in a new way, it's modernizing it. Yeah. I mean, I like it. I'm happy for it. But I mean, to me, that's the thing. It's like, okay, we're reissuing this on vinyl. Let's make this something.
Yeah.
Yes. And they had the album out originally. And Rush has a lot of great album covers, original ones. These new ones too are fantastic. And I like that there is that thing, meaning the same music is coming out on that reissue. And so people that are streaming it, they're not getting any of that, or they're seeing the little tiny art print on it, but it's like,
they're watching the lyrics, because now this is a thing.
Yeah, right.
They're watching the lyrics flow up.
It's like karaoke. I know, right?
Yeah,
the lines move as they're being sung.
Imagine that. You're just... I'm sure we don't have to imagine it. We all do it.
Right.
But I would just rather pick up anything
yeah.
and hold it, and then read the lyrics as it's going along, and let my eyes... I don't know. I don't know how to put it into words. There's something different when you're looking at it in your head, reading a book, or if you're watching something go up.
Yeah, it's
taking away from the music when you're watching it.
I agree. You're watching that instead of your attention being 100% on the music. When I first get an album, I have to just listen to it. I don't want to read the lyrics. I don't want to
just
hold the album, and I've just got it in my head, and I'm just listen.
Yeah.
I can't do anything else because I need to hear the nuances of it. And it's that moment setting thing. You can only listen to an album first one time. After that, it's lost. And I find that that connection or that impact that an album can make, I want that. And I don't want to lose that. And there's been times where it's like we've had a couple times here, the phone is rung in the middle of this, right? So you've got this brand new album, you've been dying for it, and you put it on, and then the phone rings. Somebody needs something, doorbell rings, whatever it might be, it's happening, and it's breaking up this experience.
Yeah.
That's happened a couple times where I'm in the middle of something, and it's like it happened in a certain point of the album. Now, from whenever I listen to that album, it is the breaking point of the album for me. It's like, even if though it's not a halfway, it's like, oh, song number 7 was the first chunk, because after that I came back and I specifically put it on and listened to like 8 to 15 or something.
Damn.
And now there's just this broken split in the album for me. I can never get past it.
Yeah, I understand that.
But it's interesting that happens too. Like there you go.
And the association.
And the association. So now, regardless that it was ever intended or wasn't intended, right? I now have this thing trapped. But I think that's also the music. It has nothing to do with the fact that I got interrupted listening to it. The music and the enjoyment and that experience of wanting to digest it and not being able to also created the memory of what occurred that I didn't get to, do it kind of a thing. And you have tons of those things. I mean, I've got memories riding the train and looking out the window and listening to, at the time, the new NXS Switch. So I had the new lead vocalist, Judy
Fortune. And then Switch comes in, and you see those, whatever you saw, whether it was dark, trees,
it was
a river.
It was fall. And so the leaves were changing. They're all different colors. I'm staring at that, and it was just the absolute most perfect music.
And each of them will bring you back. If you drive through
every time I ride the train and I look out at that same scene from New York City over into New Jersey, and I see that
record plays in your head, whether it's on or not.
That's right. And if it doesn't matter what I'm listening to, I will go put that on. I have to.
That's freaking awesome.
So I think in wrapping this thing up here, my question would be, what do you say to somebody that only streams? And this idea that what we've been saying about physical format, its importance of it and what it can do for people.
I have two things come to head same time. One, don't. But tied with that is as long as you're listening, and
right.
maybe listening, streaming is the gateway to saying,
I want to know more about this.
I want to know more about this.
Yeah.
And the only way to do it, well, there's many ways to do it nowadays. There was when
right.
the only way to do it once upon a time ago was to go out and pick it up, buy
right.
it.
Right.
But I see that that's happening. People are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are coming in, and streaming's not the worst thing in the world if it's not
yeah.
the only thing you do. If that's all
right.
you do, you're missing out on so much.
Right. My big thing in that is with streaming, not everything that an artist recorded is usually up for streaming due to licensing rights.
Yes.
And so you've got a favorite band, and I've done this a couple times where I meet someone, we're talking with them, they absolutely love some band, they only stream, they think the band has 4 albums. I'm like, what are you talking about? This band has 15 albums or something.
Yeah.
And when they find that out, they freak because they're like, I had no idea.
Yep.
But they didn't go from the streaming aspect to Wikipedia to look anything up. They didn't explore. They didn't go into your record store where you can find out-of-print albums and stuff like that, or Amazon or whatever. And it's like, so for me, it's, first of all, listening to music, it's good no matter what.
Yeah,
and if you're streaming, at least you're listening to music and enjoy it. But as Anthony said, there's so much more out there that isn't available on streaming. Beyond the amount of music that is out there, the experience, the tactile,
there's a ritual
form.
to
right.
You wake up first thing in the morning. You can stream, but I brew my coffee,
right.
and I need to put something on. I need to touch something, hold something.
I was listening to Jefferson Starship, Modern Times this morning on the turntable. Came down the stairs, turned it on wherever I left off on it, went into the kitchen, started my morning routine. But yeah.
I was listening to Sisters of Mercy, First, Last, and Always this morning. It just seemed like
Great.
that kind of a morning. But
yeah.
the weather
mm-hmm.
out here is a little overcast today,
yeah.
so it almost dictated
yeah.
the feeling or mood that I was in. And that's the other thing, is we can walk into a room and look around at our walls and see all of this music and
have something to draw from, to look at and say, oh, I haven't listened to that. That speaks to me today.
And because right. of the weather.
Right. And you can't really
it's awesome.
Right. And you can't really do that with streaming. At least that is my,
I'm
speaking from my own standpoint. I stream. I love it for the commute. I love it for while I'm at the office. I can stream. Getting stuff brand new before it's released. I'm waiting for it to arrive in the mail or come here and pick it up, and it's like I can listen to it at 12 midnight.
Yeah.
The night before.
But
so it's like,
for the ritualistic aspect, you're just flipping through,
right,
and you're staring at what's in front of you rather than what's around you.
Well,
there's no peripheral, and when you walk into a room full of music, or even if it's a small shelf, there's peripheral, because you got to look this way and you have to look this way. So you're constantly seeing it, and you're not flipping.
Right. And so a lot of times when I'm sort of at a loss, I don't know what to listen to. And imagine that, owning 11,000 CDs. And
all the time. All the time.
It happens. I have no idea what I want to listen to. And this happened last night where I ended up opening a box and just looking at all of the spines of it. And I found Grace Slick album in there, Dreams. And I love that album.
It's a cool album.
And I was just like, I'm going to listen to that. And then that played into my Jefferson Starship in the morning kind of a thing. But it's like I had that at least as an option to look into a box of CDs or at a wall of CDs like what we've got here and peruse. Is my favorite thing, going into a record store, not coming in for any one specific thing, but just browsing to see what I can find.
Yeah.
You can't browse really on the internet. It's just not.
Yeah.
You got to know what you're typing in to search.
Yep.
And that's my biggest issue.
Sometimes it's good to just not know and let the wave take you. Let the moment that you're living in dictate where you're going to go.
And then one final thing, because we didn't touch on it before, is, how many times back in the day did you walk into a store and you saw an album cover, you didn't know anything about the band, but you were like, oh man, that's gotta rock. I gotta get that. And so you look at the artist.
What is that?
Right. And you buy it simply based on that. And again, I'm not on streaming looking at little tiny pictures going, I've got to hear that. Somebody had to have told me about it. Somebody had to have directed me to it. Had to pop up and say it's recommended for you. I don't want anyone picking my music for me. I want to experience it. And so I think we'll wrap it up with that. I know what you're going to pull out here.
I have to do this because, I mean, we feel the same way. Just buy it. Buy something. Right. Hold something.
Right.
It's going to make your experience all the more enjoyable.
Van Halen, Women and Children First, third album.
You can't get this poster streaming. You can only get it if you buy the LP.
Right. And even
why wouldn't you want to have that?
And even if you can see, which you can today, see this picture on the internet. Oh, go the other way, right?
you don't get to...
sorry, I'm fanatical about getting things folded back up the right way, right?
Yeah, I was. When it started flipping over, I was starting. I know. I was like, my mind was going.
But having that and pulling that out for the first time at that scale,
I
mean, that had to have blown so many kids' minds at that time.
Whether you like the poster or not, whether it doesn't, it's cool.
Right. So we're going to leave you with that, but you're absolutely right.
Anything.
I think the biggest thing, why is physical format music necessary and important?
Because we need it. And it's cool.
But we need it. That's the bottom line here. I think we need it. We need it for so many different reasons. And I think we hit on a lot of those things here. But I'm sure you guys have your own thoughts and opinions on this. If you would, please leave your comments. Let us know.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear them.
Yeah.
I'm stoked.
Thanks everyone for listening. We'll talk to you all soon.
See you later.